You're driving down a quiet highway, the sun shining through your windshield. Everything feels calm, peaceful, until, in the distance, you see it. A massive black wall of water racing toward the shore, a tornado forming out of nowhere. The ground beneath you shaking violently before splitting open. In an instant, that perfectly normal day turns into a nightmare. Nature doesn't send invitations. When she decides to strike, there's no negotiating, no second chances. In today's video, we're diving into 9 of the most jaw-dropping moments where Mother Nature showed her true power, caught on camera in all its terrifying glory. From unstoppable tsunamis swallowing cities whole, to skies that turned into pure chaos, this is a reminder that we are never truly in control. And yet, there's something to be learned from each disaster. The signs were there, the warnings existed. Some escaped because they recognized them, others didn't. So stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll not only witness nature's wrath, but you'll also know what to do when it strikes next. Hold tight, because this is going to be one unforgettable ride. When water becomes the enemy. The tsunami that devastated Japan, Sato 2011, March 11th, 2011. A day that changed Japan forever. A 9.0 magnitude earthquake erupted beneath the Pacific Ocean, sending shockwaves across the sea floor and creating a tsunami that would become one of the most catastrophic natural disasters in modern history. The first sign? The ocean suddenly pulled back, exposing the seabed, leaving fish flopping on the sand. But within minutes, a towering black wall of water, over 40 meters, 130 feet high, came crashing down on the coastline. Entire neighborhoods were erased from the map. Houses, cars, boats, even people, swept away like dust in a hurricane. A video from a Japanese news helicopter captured the moment massive cargo ships were tossed onto highways like toys. The aftermath? Over 15,000 lives lost, 6,000 injured, and billions of dollars in damages. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant was also crippled, triggering a nuclear disaster that contaminated the land and forced mass evacuations. Lesson: if the ocean suddenly retreats, drop everything and run to higher ground. That's your warning. A tsunami is coming. The nightmarish floods of India, 2023. Monsoon rains in India are nothing new, but in 2023, Mother Nature took things to another level. The Kerala region saw non-stop torrential downpours. Within 48 hours, rivers swelled beyond their banks, transforming streets into raging torrents of brown, debris-filled water. Families clung to rooftops, waving desperately to rescuers. Bridges collapsed. Entire villages were submerged, and over 1 million people were displaced. One viral video showed a man trying to cross a street, only to be swept away within seconds. He disappeared beneath the current, leaving bystanders screaming helplessly. Lesson: when flash floods strike, never try to cross moving water. It only takes 6 inches to knock you off your feet, and just 2 feet can carry away an entire car. Boston's frozen nightmare, 2018. Flooding is bad, but when the floodwater turns into solid ice, that's next-level chaos. In 2018, a powerful bomb cyclone slammed into Boston, bringing hurricane-force winds and massive storm surges. But the real nightmare, the freezing temperatures that followed. Water surged through the streets, then froze solid. By morning, cars were buried under sheets of ice. Some looked like they had been trapped in a glacier for centuries. One resident recalled, "I parked my car outside." The next morning, it was a giant ice sculpture. I couldn't even open the door. Even firefighters struggled. Their hoses froze mid-air, turning to solid frozen coils while they fought to save buildings. Lesson: if you live in a coastal city prone to winter storms, never park in a flood zone before a storm. Your car might not make it out until spring, when the sky attacks tornado terror at a Russian airport. 2024, you expect tornadoes in places like Oklahoma or Kansas. But Russia? In 2024, an airport tarmac in Russia became ground zero for one of the most unexpected twisters ever caught on camera. Security footage showed a black funnel cloud ripping across the runway, lifting vehicles off the ground like paper in the wind. Inside the terminal, passengers screamed as windows shattered. The storm tore through the airport, leaving $2.4 million in damages. But the real miracle? No fatalities. One airport worker barely made it to safety before the tornado ripped apart the control tower. Lesson: tornadoes can strike anywhere. If you see a funnel forming, take cover in an interior room or underground shelter. Airports are not safe. Hailstorm hell in Denver, 2017. Hailstorms don't seem that bad until the ice balls get big enough to smash through your roof. In 2017, Denver, Colorado was pummeled by a storm so severe that some hailstones were the size of baseballs. The damage? Over $1.4 billion in insurance claims. Drivers watched in horror as hailstones pounded their windshields, shattering glass instantly. Some people were caught outside and suffered concussions just from the impact. A viral video showed a man hiding under a gas station awning while the hail destroyed nearby cars. It looked like a meteor shower had hit the city. Lesson: if you ever see dark, greenish storm clouds, get inside immediately. That eerie color is a sign of intense hail or even a tornado. The hailstorm at sea, 2023. Now imagine getting caught in a hailstorm while on a cruise ship. In 2023, a luxury cruise in the Mediterranean was slammed by a freak hailstorm. Passengers filmed golf ball-sized hailstones crashing onto the deck, breaking windows and forcing everyone to take cover inside. One crew member said, "I've been working on ships for 20 years. I've never seen hail this size in open water." Lesson: storms at sea can change in minutes. Always check weather forecasts before setting sail, and never ignore storm warnings. When the Earth moves, the landslide in Nepal, 2024. There's nothing more terrifying than the ground beneath you suddenly collapsing. In 2024, a camera crew in Nepal accidentally captured the exact moment a mountainside gave way, triggering a landslide that buried an entire village. The video shows a wall of rock and dirt roaring down the slope like an avalanche. Survivors ran for their lives, but some didn't make it out. Lesson: if you live near mountains or cliffs, pay attention to warning signs like cracking soil or unusual sounds. They might save your life. Italy's rockslide disaster, 2024. Italian workers were repairing a road when they noticed huge cracks forming in the mountainside. Instinctively, they evacuated. Minutes later, 350,000 tons of rock came crashing down, burying the road they had just been working on. A drone captured the landslide as it obliterated everything in its path. Lesson: if you ever see deep cracks in cliffs or hillsides, stay far away. Those cracks could be the first sign of an impending disaster. The Hawaiian lava invasion, 2018. Hawaii may be a tropical paradise, but it also sits atop one of the most active volcanic zones on Earth. In 2018, the Kilauea volcano erupted, sending rivers of lava creeping through neighborhoods. One homeowner watched in horror as lava slowly oozed into his backyard, swallowing his garden, then his fence, then his entire house. He filmed the whole thing, saying, "I had a home here yesterday. Now, it's just lava." Lesson: if you live near an active volcano, always have an evacuation plan. When lava flows start, you don't have much time. After everything we've seen, one thing is clear. Nature doesn't ask. She takes. She doesn't care about our cities, our homes, or the technology we build. She reminds us, again and again, who's really in charge. But here's the thing. We're not powerless. Every flood, every wildfire, every earthquake, it leaves behind something more than just destruction. It leaves behind lessons. The ocean suddenly pulling back, get to higher ground, fast. A strange silence before a storm. A tornado could be forming. Unusual cracks in the earth? Move before the ground beneath you does. We can't stop nature, but we can learn to survive her. So now, we turn to you. Have you ever witnessed a natural disaster firsthand? What's the scariest moment you've experienced? Drop your story in the comments. We want to hear it. And if this video left you speechless, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next deep dive into the mysteries of our planet. Because out here, on Arcane Universe, we uncover the forces that shape our world, whether we're ready for them or not.